Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel, Performance Nutrition. In this week's video, we're going to explore protein. We're going to understand protein, identify quality food sources of protein, both animal-based and plant-based, learn how much protein is recommended and your daily requirements to maximize your results, introduce the concept of per meal protein dosing, and look at the differences in protein intakes between young and older athletes. My name's Fonda, a performance dietitian sharing my passion for and knowledge of evidence-based sports nutrition to help you reach peak health and performance. If you are new here, make sure you click the subscribe button and don't forget to turn on your notifications so you don't miss out on any of my weekly videos. As always, I'll provide links related to today's video in the description box below, but let's jump into it. So protein in our bodies are made from building blocks or amino acids that we get from the food that we eat. And there are 20 amino acids. 9 of them are essential and 11 are non-essential. And the essential amino acids we must consume from our food, whereas the non-essential amino acids our bodies can actually make themselves. And our bodies don't store protein in any significant amount like it does with carbohydrate and fat. So we must eat protein every day to function at our best. Protein is such a vital component of every cell in our bodies. We use it to build and repair tissues like muscle tissue, keep our immune system healthy, make enzymes and hormones, and it forms the structures of bones, muscles, skin, blood, and connective tissue like tendons and ligaments. And if we don't get enough protein, such as in diseases like malnutrition, our body's cells start to break down. So if protein is so important, where do we get it from? Well, we can get protein in our food supply from 2 sources. The first source is found in animal-based proteins, and these can be found in foods like beef, lamb and pork, chicken or turkey, tuna or salmon and other fish, eggs, and also dairy foods such as milk and yogurt. And these are considered high biological value or high quality proteins, and we'll get to what that means in a tick. We also get protein from plant-based foods such as legumes, so chickpeas and beans, lentils, soybeans and their products like tofu, split peas, quinoa, and other plant-derived protein powders like pea, soy, and brown rice protein. And these are generally considered low biological value or lower quality proteins. So the quality of protein considers 2 main points. One, their essential amino acid profile, and secondly, their digestibility. So protein from animal-based sources contains all essential amino acids, including leucine, and this is why it's considered high quality. So leucine has been shown time and time again in research to activate the biochemical pathways within the muscle that switch on muscle protein synthesis or that muscle building process. And plant-based proteins traditionally lack 1 or more essential amino acids like leucine and therefore considered lower quality. However, research is emerging that is showing that plant-based proteins are comparable to whey protein at switching on muscle protein synthesis. And this might be because many manufacturers are adding leucine and other essential amino acids to these protein powders to boost their quality. So it's an exciting area of research. However, at the time of this video, there are only 2 studies that I could find investigating this. So make sure you keep watching this space. In terms of digestibility, various protein-rich foods are given a protein digestibility corrected amino acid score or a PDCAAS score. And to work out this score of a protein, you analyze the feces. So the PDCAAS looks at how much protein was absorbed after it's gone through your small and large intestines. And in general, the closer a protein scores to 1, the better. So animal-based proteins tend to score closer to 1, whereas your plant-based proteins will usually score around 0.9 or less. So how much protein should we be having? So the recommended daily intake, or the RDI of protein, for both men and women is 0.8 grams of protein per kilo per day. So for an average Australian male at 86 kilos, this is 69 grams per day. And for a woman that's 71 kilos, that's 57 grams per day. But the key thing to take home from the above is that these recommendations are to prevent deficiency. They're not really there to optimize body composition or skeletal muscle gain or function. So if you are an endurance athlete, daily protein recommendations have been suggested between 1.2 to 1.4 grams of protein per kilogram per day to help with muscle recovery and in building more power plants or mitochondria within the muscle cells. And if you're a strength or power-based athlete, recommended intakes are between 1.4 to 1.8 grams of protein per kilogram per day to allow for muscle recovery, but also the growth of new muscle. So in general, for athletes and physically active people, a range between 1.2 to 1.8 grams of protein per kilo per day appears to be a sensible target range. And there doesn't seem to be any benefit for intakes greater than 2 grams of protein per kilo per day for gaining muscle or optimizing muscle function. But it's also good to know that if your goal is to build muscle, you don't just need protein. You also need to make sure that you consume enough energy in the form of kilojoules to give your body the fuel that it needs to lay down this muscle. However, if your goal is to lose a bit of body fat, higher protein intakes between 1.8 to 2.2 grams of protein per kilo per day has been suggested. And this is in an attempt to preserve lean muscle mass whilst being in an energy deficit. And it also helps promote satiety, which can help with weight management. Now, these protein recommendations that I've covered today should ideally be based on lean mass, and that can be assessed via a DEXA scan. So this scan is typically used to scan bone to identify osteoporosis. However, it can be used to measure how much of your total body weight is made up of muscle and fat and other tissues like bone and organs. So what is the concept of per meal protein requirements? So we know that daily protein requirements are important. However, there is growing evidence to suggest that per meal protein dosing should also be considered to allow for a more even distribution of protein throughout the day. And this is because research has shown that there appears to be a threshold for protein at each meal, in which greater amounts of protein consumed above this threshold provide no further benefit to muscle growth and repair. So how should you spread your protein over the day to maximize your results? Well, research from the CSIRO highlight that currently many Australians' protein distribution is not optimal. And Australians tend to back end their protein in favour of their dinner meal, with breakfast tending to be the very, very low in protein. So to build and repair muscle and optimize function, you should consume around 0.3 to 0.5 grams of protein per kilogram of body weight per meal. So this is around 25 to 45 grams of protein per meal for men and about 20 to 35 grams of protein per meal for women. And we ideally like this to be spread over 3 meals and snacks. So do I need the same amount of protein for my whole life? So protein needs tend to vary across different phases in life and also training status. So when we are younger, the amount of protein we need per meal to help repair and synthesize new muscle is between 0.2 to 0.4 grams of protein per kilogram per meal, or around 20 to 25 grams of protein in a meal. But as we age and become masters athletes, our bodies go through some inevitable changes, particularly at the level of the muscle. We start to lose muscle mass from the age of about 40 years, and this results in a decrease in muscle response, strength, and function. So in order to prevent or delay the age-related loss in muscle mass, we need to consume more protein to overcome this anabolic resistance within our muscles. So anabolic resistance describes the reduced stimulation of muscle protein synthesis to a given dose of protein or amino acids and contributes to the decline in skeletal muscle mass. So higher per meal protein doses of between 0.4 to 0.6 grams of protein per kilogram per meal has been suggested to overcome this anabolic resistance. And in addition to food, physical exercise, particularly resistance training performed at least 3 days a week, is a really potent anabolic stimulus, and in conjunction with the correct protein feeding can actually help overcome the age-related loss in muscle mass. So the information I have shared with you in this video is based on current research. And to find out more about your own circumstances and individual requirements, make sure you chat with your own performance dietitian. I'll make sure I'll leave a link in the description box below so that you can find one near you. And I'll also add links to some other helpful fact sheets and research that you can read in your own time. So if you've liked what you've heard here today, give this video a thumbs up, share this video with your mates, and add your comments below on how you use protein. Do you dose per meal, or do you just look at the daily requirements? But that's it from me for now. I look forward to seeing you in the next video. Fonda out.